Hello, everybody. Welcome to this quick little session where we are going to go through proper plank position and variations that are accessible for everybody. And what I want you to know is that planking is about a progression. And so it's about connecting with our muscles, isolating, stabilizing, and then once we feel strong and like we've mastered, each step, that is when we can start to progress. And so with progression comes more ease than you would think. What we want to be very mindful of is using our core, in fact, using our leg muscles, using as much as we can, being very protective of our lumbar curve, so our low back curve, which tends to be where people sag and cause discomfort and overall just not very good for our backs at all. Okay, so form is very important, and that's why I wanted to make sure to do this quick little video. So to begin with, we're going to come into one of the most popular positions that we frequently pass through in a yoga class, and that is table. Now in table pose, we come to all fours, and this is our level 1 plank position. I want you to spread your fingers really nice and wide and place your hands very intentionally underneath of your shoulders. Same thing with your knees. It's not as easy to feel, but try to have your hips stacked directly on top of the knees here, tops of the feet to the floor, and just gazing straight down. So we want to imagine we're holding maybe a plank or a board on our back and push away from the floor very actively. So push away until you feel like you're in the top of a push-up. Now what's super important is our arm joints. Stack your wrist, your elbow, and your shoulder in a nice tall line. Sounds easy, right? But lots of times people forget about the elbow and their elbows splay. So you can even try that for a second, bend your elbows a little bit, and then notice how all of a sudden you feel very heavy in your chest. Press away. Pull your elbows in, lock them in. Okay, now try to draw belly towards your spine. You should feel a little natural hollowness through your chest in table, and that's going to be able to track into the belly. So as we press, it's almost a very gentle tuck of our pelvis. Get super strong and super, perfect at doing this. So every time you come to table, try to find that really good connection. Okay, that's step 1. That's level 1, step 1, however you like to think of it. Anytime that I prompt plank in a class, I say table is a great option as well. From here, we're going to step our legs back. We're going to come into a plank in a modified fashion. So knees touching down. So notice the angle from my knees to my hips. Okay, we're still going to try to keep our glutes engaged. You can do several things with your feet. I like to point my toes actually and lift my legs up. Some people like to just prop on their toes here. Same thing with the upper body. Push away from the floor. Strong back. Feel that connection of the core. Try to imagine like you're drawing or zipping your rib cage together. Pull everything towards that front line of your body. Take a deep breath. Good job. Let's sit back to come out of that for a second. So level 2 is somewhere that you will likely progress to quite quickly, and I just want to show you what we want to not to do once we progress to level 2. So remember in table I mentioned a slight tuck of the pelvis is what we want to feel. And so in this modified plank, what you don't want to do is this. So I lose connection of the glutes, my hips are dropping forward, and in fact all my weight is in the shoulder joint. If it's not in your shoulders, it's in your wrists here. Okay, tuck under, tuck your pelvis, engage your glute muscles. Down here, we can't really do much. Engage your glutes, engage your quads. Okay, master that position. Yoga is a non-competitive practice. I know that's hard to get into our brains sometimes. We want to just like do it all, and we think we should be able to do it, so we really push ourselves to that next level. But I promise you, you're going to gain so much body awareness and so much more natural and like really quick strength by practicing correctly over rushing the process. Last thing I'm going to show you is your standard plank position, a full plank if you will. So setting ourselves up, and I set up the exact same way. So same as we did in table. Spread your fingers, wrists underneath of your shoulders. Lock your elbows in, push away from the ground. Okay, step one foot back. Step the other foot back. Keep your head neutral. I see this a lot. When you gaze forward, you can try it. Gaze forward, your hips will drop. We do not want that. Try to imagine what it would feel like if I was pressing my fist into your belly button. Okay, so it's this little pushback. This is like a little fake out of it. It's easier back here. We want to find that kind of in between. Practice in front of a mirror. Practice finding where you need to be so that you understand what that feels like in your body. Take one more breath. Good job. Bring one knee down and the other. Okay, so our low back, we want it to be super supported in plank. Our transverse abs, that's those abdominal muscles that wrap like a corset around our body. That's what we're really trying to engage. Deep abdominal work in plank. Okay, upper body strength as well. So if you're somebody who has trouble with your wrists, trouble with your shoulders, trouble with your elbows, then just give yourself some grace. Practice table, practice a modified plank. I promise you will be able to graduate to a full plank position in not too long. Okay, in a full plank, we want to practice something that's called Hasta Bandha. It's a hand lock. It's one of the bandhas of yoga. It's pressing away from the floor. I prompt that a lot in any of the variations of plank that you do. We want to think of that. And what it means essentially is pressing away from the ground, sending all that energy back up into your arms. And it's really important and strong mental cue because what we tend to do if we don't think of pushing away is we feel very heavy and we feel very collapsed into the joints. Your joints have space in them. We want to push and lengthen as much as we can from our hands up through our shoulders. So push away from the floor, Hasta Bandha. Okay, from here I want to show you a couple of forearm variations and then it's going to be up to you to practice these, okay? So coming on to our forearms. Now typically in yoga, the forearm plank position can be referred to as a dolphin plank because it's a graduate or it's a transition or a precursor to dolphin pose, which is essentially downward dog, but on your forearms. So one of the things that I like to start people out with when they are doing a forearm plank or a dolphin plank is to spread your hands and keep your hands down to the mat. And I'll demonstrate that. So you can come into this the same way as we do when we get into table. So coming down and spreading your fingers nice and wide. Now I'll show you by comparison what some other alternatives are. So one would be to bring your palms together. I don't mind that one either. Okay, just touching your hands, pressing that pinky edge down into the ground. What I personally don't like is the interlace. And I'll tell you why. When we interlace our hands, if I were to step back to a plank, you could probably even see on the video the color of my knuckles. I send all my stress, all my tension into my fingers, okay? Instead, I want you to take your palms down, forearms here. As we step back, push away from the ground. Push all the way up into your chest. Squeeze with your leg muscles. Strong, steady back. Tap your knees down if you need a halfway position. Okay? Press your heart space away from the ground. Shoulder joints need to be working quite actively. Good job. Practice that one as well. So that's a forearm plank. Again, it's just something that comes quite quickly, really, once we learn those body muscles that we need to contract and the moving of energy through our body. Backwards through our heels, push away from the ground, squeeze everything towards your middle line, and you will be planking like a pro in no time. Good job, you guys. I hope you learned something. Let me know if you have questions. Namaste.